Because of our historic actions, we're going to reduce by 43 million tons greenhouse gas pollution every single year as a consequence of these investments. That is the equivalent of removing pollution from more than 10 million gas-powered vehicles. 10 million. It's going to save $265 billion in healthcare costs because of better, cleaner quality of air. People aren't breathing polluted air and getting sick. That comes from the NIH. It matters, folks. You know it. And folks, I've kept my commitment to be president for all America and all Americans, including rural America. Your communities are the backbone, and that's not hyper. You're the backbone of this country. You deserve the same resources as folks in our cities and our suburbs. And that's what today's announcement is all about. Generating rural power for rural America. But that's not all. Last year, I was next door with your good neighbor, Governor Walz of Minnesota. I think the guy's gone places. I talked about we're making the most fundamental and significant investment ever in rural America, creating new and better markets, new income streams that are generators of rural Americas that can grow and thrive. For example, we're taking on big corporations and doing everything from increasing competition in the meat markets to boosting domestic fertilizer production. In fact, here in Wisconsin, that means $12 million to lower fertilizer costs for farmers across the state, which also creates jobs and grows new businesses. Here in Wisconsin, we also invested $47 million to lower energy costs, install renewable and energy-efficient technologies like solar panels behind me on farms and rural small businesses. Darren just shared how that's cut his family electricity bill in half. We're helping farmers and ranchers and entrepreneurs tackle the climate crisis. Climate-smart agriculture, such as cover crops, nutrient management, storing carbon in the soil. These practices reduce the greenhouse gas emissions and improve our overall health of the soil and the water. They put us on a path to continuing to grow the food, the fuel, the fiber that will power our nation for decades to come. Through our bipartisan infrastructure law, it's a fancy way of saying that $366 billion for the environment, most significant investment in America's infrastructure. And what the infrastructure bill, by the way, the bipartisan bill, that was $1.2 trillion. And guess what? We're still lowering the deficit. Anyway, the most significant investment in America since Eisenhower's interstate highway system. We've invested $4 billion so far in 350 projects to modernize Wisconsin transportation. Just in Wisconsin, that's been invested. Infrastructure, only 3 roundabouts on Route 14, US 14, and a new bridge on County Highway M. Folks, look, just like we're making the most significant investment in rural electrification as FDR, we're also making the most significant investment ever in affordable high-speed internet. Because affordable high-speed internet is just as essential today as electricity was a century ago. In order to be able to do business, and when things are shut down, your kid doesn't have to sit outside of McDonald's. And anyway, that's why we've invested $1.6 billion just in Wisconsin to connect everyone to affordable high-speed internet in Wisconsin. And since I took office, 72,000 more Wisconsin homes and small businesses have access to high-speed internet for the first time ever. We're going to keep it going. We've also invested $200 million to replace lead pipes across the state so a kid can drink clean water without worrying about brain damage, and changing their schools as well. We've launched the Rural Partners Network, putting new federal staff on the ground to help communities access federal resources. Let them know what they are, where to go, how to get it, because it's complicated. So I want people on site being able to tell people how they qualify, how they apply, how they get it done. And after years of importing 90% of our semiconductor chips, which I might add, America invented. We invented the computer chip. It's needed for everything from automobile engines to weapons. We passed the Chips and Science Act, has led private companies from around the world to come back. We used to have 40% of the market not too many years ago. And now we've got down to basically zero. So around from countries around, I travel from everywhere from North Korea, anyway, South Korea to across the world to get these computer chip factories to come. I asked when we convinced one of the companies in South Korea to invest in building these chips in America, I said, why would you do it? And they're investing several $1 billion. He said, because you have the most advanced workers in the world, and it's the safest place in the world to invest. Well, our Chips and Science Act has led private companies from around the world to invest hundreds of billions of dollars in new chip and battery factories, and more of them right here in America. With the leadership of your governor, you've already added 200,000 new jobs and attracted over $5 billion in Wisconsin in private sector investment in clean energy and advanced manufacturing. In fact, this spring, I was with your governor in Racine, where Microsoft announced a $3 billion investment, $3 billion investment to build a data center to help operate one of the most powerful artificial intelligence systems in the entire world. It's going to create thousands of good-paying jobs on site and across the state, creating even more opportunities in rural communities. Let's remember, my predecessor promised you that he would redevelop Foxconn factory in Racine. You been there lately? He didn't do a damn thing. Nothing. Folks, all these investments means family farms can stay in the family. Rural entrepreneurs can build their dreams. Your children and grandchildren won't have to leave home to make a living. I don't know how many of you have been confronted growing up where everything's going well and the son or daughter comes to mom or dad and said, I can't stay. There's not work for me here. I got to leave. That's stopping now. Because we're spreading opportunities to benefit everyone. Building a future where no one is left behind. Growing an economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down. Because when you do that, everybody does well. Everybody does well. My dad used to have an expression, Joey, a job's my dad was a hard-working guy. Didn't go to college, a well-read guy because of World War II. Anyway, he worked like hell. He always come home to dinner before he go back and close the shop. And my dad used to say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about being treated with respect. And it's about knowing you can look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay. You're not going to have to leave home to get a job. That's in stark contrast to my predecessor. When he was in office, he enacted a $2 trillion tax cut. $2 trillion tax cut that overwhelmingly benefited the very wealthy, the biggest corporations, and drove up federal deficit every single year of his presidency. He left office with the largest annual deficit in American history, $3 trillion. And by the way, I made a commitment when I got elected, and my vice president made a similar commitment. No one making under $400,000 will see a single penny in their taxes raised, not a single penny. Neighborhood I come from in Claymont, Delaware, and Scranton, Pennsylvania, they say, well, that's too damn much. But the point is to make sure that we know this isn't an attack on the wealthy. He left us with a pandemic raging, an economy reeling. His allies in Congress, with all due respect, I've had this conversation with your Senator Ron Johnson, voted against every one of the things I talked about today. Every single thing I talked about in terms of rural economy. He voted against it. Voted against it. It's hard to imagine your senator voting against interest in a rural state was so large and so consequential as the state of Wisconsin. Meanwhile, your other senator, Tammy Baldwin, has done everything to take care of the state so she can be devoted to it. Vice President Kamala Harris fought like hell for all of you and for the future worthy of your aspirations. Look, just think about how far we've come. We have more to go. We have more to go. Too many people are still in trouble. But nearly 4 years that we've been president and vice president, with one of the most extraordinary periods of progress in American history. COVID no longer controls our lives. We've gone from an economic crisis to the strongest economy in the world. Let me say it again. We have the strongest economy in the world, and no one challenged it. We got more to do. We're seeing something else. In thousands of cities and towns across the country and across Wisconsin, we're seeing the great American comeback story. The way I see it, and I talk to the other team, talks about how bad off we are and how America's enjoy. The way I see it, today's announcement is about far more than just giving rural America the power to turn on the lights. It's about giving the power to shape our own future. In fact, Wisconsin has a strong, strong history of neighbor helping neighbor and forming cooperatives, which are literally owned and powered by the people of Wisconsin. Because of you, we're planting seeds today that grow and blossom for generations to come. That's what we're seeing here in Wisconsin, a state with a proud tradition of rural communities leading our nation forward. And again, that's not an exaggeration. You've been a leader in the nation. Let me close with this. As I travel this state and the country, hope you feel what I feel. Pride. Pride in our hometowns. Pride in making a comeback. Pride in America. Pride in knowing we can get big things done when we work together. Folks, I've never been more optimistic about our nation's future. Just have to remember who the hell we are. We're the United States of America. That's who we are. Not a joke. We're the only nation in the world that's come through every crisis stronger than we went into that crisis. Because we're a hard-working, optimistic people, decent people. We know from experience that there's nothing beyond our capacity when we work together. And again, that's not an exaggeration. We work together. I remember the days when I first got started. With a lot of Republican senators, my close friends, we worked together, we compromised. We didn't talk about things as if it was a dire moment, that democracy was at stake. We actually worked together. We fought like hell, but we worked together. We got to return that for our children, because our democracy depends on it. I'm keeping you too long in the sun, so let me just say, God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.